Hi everyone, and welcome to another Watercolor Wednesday episode. Today we're going to be painting a natural landscape, so grab your watercolor materials and let's just get right into it. So the only difference between this video and previous watercolor tutorials is that I've taped the borders of my piece of paper in a slightly different way. I just pointed the bottom because I was kind of getting sick of rectangles and squares, but this is definitely not important to the overall painting. Anyways, the first thing you want to do is cover your piece of paper with a layer of water, and then you're going to take brown watercolor and create these colored wisps going across mainly the top portion of the piece of paper. And this is obviously creating sort of a wispy sky. We're making the clouds look sort of orange in pigment, a little bit of brown as well. But you can be very free with how you do this. You can let the color naturally blend in with the watercolor or with the water underneath, or you can help it along by dragging your brush in either direction to help the watercolor spread out a little bit more. Either way, just make sure that you let that background dry completely before you move on to the next step, or you will ruin your painting because this next step will sort of bleed into your painting if you don't let it dry completely. Anyways, so for this step, we're just going to be painting on a basic mountain range. You don't have to do anything fancy here, it's quite simple. You just take that same brownish watercolor that you used for the clouds, and you just paint on two humps almost at towards kind of the horizon line, a little bit towards the bottom of your painting. And you want to make sure that you're dispersing a little bit of that brown pigment towards the top, because we really want it to contrast against the sky, given that we're going to be painting trees over top in the foreground, so we really want that mountain range to stick out. As you can see, I'm also adding some water below my mountain, so I just very lightly blended a very light blue watercolor pigment in with the base of my mountain. I created another sort of river thing connecting to that one with that same brown watercolor separating those two rivers, and then I took some black watercolor and mixed it in with that brown watercolor to then create one more mountain range coming from the left. And I wasn't going for anything specific here with my base. I wasn't going for any, specific landscape, but I really like the varied look, the kind of layered look that came out after I combined all of those elements together. So once that has completely dried, you can start painting on your pine trees. There are so many different ways to paint pine trees that I find myself trying out multiple different styles with every single watercolor painting that has pine trees in it. If you are really confused on where to start with pine trees, please check out my tutorial. There's one that I released a while ago where I go over 4 techniques to paint pine trees. It's much easier if you just watch the techniques in that video and then just apply those techniques to this painting, because it's, especially if you watch my videos often, it probably gets very repetitive hearing me explain how to paint pine trees every single time. So you basically just want to fill the base with pine trees, add some other little details like birds, as you can see me adding here. I'm using a quadruple zero Winsor & Newton brush here to add the birds. I've linked that item in the description because it's one of my favorite brushes if you wanted to add it to your collection. But once your birds have completely dried, you are all finished. Don't forget to peel the tape off and you'll reveal a really clean and crisp border. Also, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, subscribe to my channel for future videos, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.